Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. WeatherBrains episode 999. Who'd have thunk it? 999 episodes. And here we are. This is the pre-show, by the way, the magical part of this program where we typically do three things. We share boring personal stories, humorous anecdotes, and from time to time we say outrageous things. But we are one show away from 1,000, and next week we will be all gathered together in Huntsville, Alabama, to celebrate 1,000 episodes of Weather Brains. Looking forward to that. That's going to be a big night. 1 week away. It's going to be good. I feel good about this show 1,000. It's going to be special.
It is going to be super special, James. We got lots to share about that tonight. Lots of big news. It's going to be a big, big event.
I feel good. So I went to the dentist today. You know, it's like it was a 1 o'clock appointment, actually 12:30, and they deaden your mouth. So when you come in to start doing your production, you sound like you've been drinking all day. You got the numb mouth thing going here. So hopefully, I promise if I sound a little slurred, I've not been boozing it up today. I've just went to the dentist. A little dental work must come into
been over at
everybody's life.
Wesley's. All right, good. That's good.
I am definitely in the right chat. You said something about drinking?
Yeah. Boozing it up was the terminology here. All right, let's see if we can hear Rich Thomas, Montgomery, Alabama. Oh, Rich.
No.
Hey, Brooks, great job this morning.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. Good evening, guys. What an honor to be on the 999th episode. And not just with you legends, but also Rich Thomas. My gosh. 999. I mean, this is the legend. Lucky number 8s, but
it'll be a memorable show. A memorable show.
Yes,
Rich says he can't hear
so
for some reason. So Rich, I guess we can't talk to him. Let's chat with him.
We're trying to get.
I guess he's texting
Rich
me. Let's see.
Upgrade his Commodore 64. And nobody on this show knows what that is. Nobody.
Don't you?
Me.
I was so thrilled when my Commodore 64 came when I was 20 years old. I was over there at the little cassette thing that you stored the programs on. And
yeah.
It was very cool.
Sorry, Atari 800. It only had 48K of RAM because who would ever need more?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, come on. No, you had the VIC-20 and the Commodore 64. The VIC-20 was the economy model, and I went all the way. I got a Commodore 64. It was a big deal. Used it for packet radio, amateur radio purposes, digital communication, and some other things. And I'll never forget the first Apple computer I got, Apple IIe. We actually used for weather graphics on the air. We had a 20 megabyte hard drive, 20 megabytes. I'm thinking, like James said, how in the world will we ever fill this thing up? 20 megs. Of course, one photograph coming off a camera is typically 20 megs. So
here's a 3 terabyte. Here's a 3 terabyte hard drive now.
Wow. That's amazing.
All right. So just
so did you ever write any programs, James, on your Commodore 64, or were you just mainly just
I did. I'd love to dabble with it, and writing code was the greatest fun.
I wrote a college football prediction program. I wrote an air traffic control graphics program where you actually had to land the planes. It was very cool.
Wow. Remember
and a weather prediction program
called Tooth Invaders. That was the one game I can remember. Don't know why.
Now is the SoCon an automatic invite to the dance? Does anybody know the answer to that?
Welcome to Basketball Brains.
It is. This is March Madness. We need like a bracket challenge.
That's right.
You know, my standard line, I say this all the time to kids. If you want to know, if you really, really, really want to know how hard predicting the future can be, you go fill out a March Madness bracket and let's see how you do. All right.
I'm going to remember
Predicting
that.
the future is hard. All right.
Yes, it is.
Oh my gosh, that's true.
The SoCon is an automatic bid, so Furman's up by 2 at the half. So Furman may get into the big dance.
See, only on this show do you get this information, not on the other weather podcasts.
You got a Furman looking
guys...
shirt on tonight, James. What's up with that?
Who, me?
I was gonna say, yeah, James, yeah.
You're kind of Furman-y there. Close.
It's like
little light, maybe like you watched it too many times or something.
Pukey purple.
Yeah, well, that's Furman's color.
If you shave, you have less fur, man.
You guys should try.
Oh boy!
Try
I heard it, James.
Get ready, Brooks. You're going to be subjected to numerous puns.
Just, I want to challenge you guys this with the brackets this year. Try ChatGPT. Have a ChatGPT bracket. Use the latest 4.0 or whatever it is, 4. The letter O, and just see what it does. It'll be interesting. It's really smart. I had it help me with my 401k. I was rebalancing with the latest recession fears. And I'll tell you, it knew exactly what to do. Yeah, exactly. Put it all in bonds. I don't know if I'll ever be able to retire, but I don't really know if I ever want to retire. You guys inspire me. Y'all are still working strong. You're going to be doing till
they're going to lower us into the ground on the last day of work.
Just called us all
getting started here. Just getting started.
Right, we are speeding
I like
up.
work. Working's fun.
Ooh, we got Troy on. We got Troy on an iPad.
Hey,
iPad.
I am. I'm in a Holiday Inn in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas.
Wow.
Addison, Texas. In fact.
On an undisclosed mission.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
There he is,
loud and clear.
5 by 5.
Rich was doing a little weather technology, a little broadcast technology over there.
Rich, can you hear us?
No,
he can't hear a word we're saying.
We can hear him, but he can't hear us. I'll tell him. We can.
Brooks. Let's get real. Is that your real hair?
You can hear me, but I can't hear you.
You see that?
So,
see how you can move it?
What should I do?
Yeah.
Wow. That's outstanding. I mean, that's the best hair I've seen in a long time. If only I had something like that going on, I'd be a good-looking guy. Wow, that's outstanding.
Wow.
I'm
gonna keep it while I got it. I've maybe got 5 more years. It's getting a little thin at the top. I've got the bald thing going on in the back, but as long as I don't turn my head, it's okay.
Nobody ever asked me that. Like, you think I'd pay money for hair that looks like this? Oh,
yeah.
I always say, Captain Picard. Captain Picard would not be as James, Patrick Stewart. He wouldn't be Patrick Stewart if he had hair.
That's right, James. That's exactly the answer there. There you go. Yep. Your avatar would not be as cute if it had hair.
The amazing thing, I don't even know how to operate a comb. I'd have to get out an instruction manual on how to operate a comb or hairspray or hair dryer.
Shampoo since 1982.
Oh my gosh.
But just think about all the time.
Hey, I don't know what's up. I tested this yesterday.
Mute yourself, Rich, because we're going out over there.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's don't get some ugly going on here.
I mean, uglier.
Uglier than usual.
Okay.
Yeah.
James can mute you.
All right.
Maybe.
And welcome to our television audience.
Maybe not.
We are glad you are here. And I am going to mute Rich. And let's see. Bill is muted, so I think we can get started here. And again, Brooks, just FYI, we are streaming live on YouTube now. We just did local television in this market here, and most people listen, and we're about to start the actual produced audio version, like right now. So we're going to hit track number 1. We're going to hit track number 2. And here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You're listening to WeatherBrains. They're kind of a big deal.
Are you kidding me? 999? This is WeatherBrains, episode 999. Wow. For the 10th of March, 2025. One away from episode 1000, where next week, most all of us, not everybody, but most all of us will stand by. We're having audio issues, but next week we are going to gather together, all of us, except one, James A., except one, in Huntsville, Alabama, at Barron Weather, and they have been gracious to kind of host us for episode 1000. We're going to have a production company come in, Ben Luna, Tennessee Valley Weather. They're going to come in and have some cameras and mics, and it's going to be good. And I promise it's going to be fantastic. So, and for those that are new here, we've been doing this since January of 06. So we're 19 years old, and episode number 1000 is next week. James A., what's your excuse? Where are you going? Aruba, Jamaica? What's the deal?
I've got a doctor's note that says I don't feel well. No. We'll be, I think, that day either in Palm Springs or Joshua Tree National Park. We're trying to hit a bunch of national parks with the kids, and it's spring break. So, yeah, I couldn't get the school system to move spring break for WeatherBrains 1000th because they clearly don't understand.
They clearly don't understand. Goodness gracious. Well, you will be missed a good bit, but again, I really don't know what to do. Bill Murray is putting this whole thing together, so no telling what's going to happen here. And let me mute Mr. Rich here.
No, I do not.
We're trying to get one of our guests online here. And oh boy, yeah, I can tell right now it's going to be one of these shows. Troy Kimmel, it's going to be one of these shows. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but how do you gauge just one of these shows? Because there's so many of them that are just like, that's what we love.
Yeah, this reminds me of the days of the Google Hangouts. We used to use that platform.
Oh, crap. Yeah.
And we would have some evenings where it would take literally 30 minutes to get these PhDs on here that have an IQ of 300, but yet they couldn't figure out Google Hangouts. So Zoom has been much, much easier and manageable here. So now, Troy, you're at some undisclosed location. You are not in your typical QTH.
And I don't mind saying I'm actually in Addison, Texas tonight, up in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. It's for some family stuff that's going on, and so dealing with that. And but also had a really nice visit today. Stay tuned from NBC5 in Dallas-Fort Worth. Visited with them in reference to the National Weather Service cutbacks, and we had a long interview in the park right over here behind the building today, and I'm told that that story may pop forth tomorrow. So,
ooh, okay. Now, did you put on your TV makeup?
Oh crap! This stuff, it's still on me. Yeah.
Yep. But I tell people all the time, paint on this barn doesn't help. It just does no good whatsoever. No, when I think of Addison, I'll never forget, Troy, this was 1985. Hurricane Gloria was coming up the East Coast. And I got a call from the news director at Channel 4. I was working at the CBS channel in Dallas.
Yeah.
And he said, you got a live shot today. Got a live shot. He called me at like 11 a.m., live shot. And so I'm thinking, well, okay, where's the live shot? He said, the National Hurricane Center. And I said, yeah, right. Where's the live shot? And he said, the National Hurricane Center. So at the Addison Airport.
And by the way, that's 2 blocks that way. It's right here on the other runway. Yeah.
They had a Learjet waiting on me. They flew me to Miami on a Learjet. Now, this is back in the 80s when TV stations did not know how to spend all of the money that they were making.
Oh, yeah.
It was a cash cow back in those days. And understand, this is Dallas. What's Gloria got to do with Dallas-Fort Worth? Nothing. But they just wanted me at the Hurricane Center. So, but they'd fly people all over the world to do stories. It was a different world back then. So, but that was one of those interesting times here. All right. So let's go to, looks like Dr. Cloco McLean, the commissioner's on here. Kim, how you doing?
Hey guys, doing great. I am just enjoying the tumultuous ride that we're on with our weather and our universe. Spring is in like a lion, and I'm hanging with it.
In more ways than one, Kim. In more ways than one.
Yep. Those are facts.
We live in interesting times. We'll just put it that way. We live in interesting times. Let's go up to the Arctic Circle and Jen Naramore, who is standing by for some active weather in the day. I'm just so thankful that we're not. You see these outlooks on day 5 and day 6. Yep. And day 7, and you're thinking, oh boy! And we've got 1,000 show 1,000 coming up in mid-March. But it looks like, Jen, by the grace of God, we were not going to have any weather problems at all. It's going to be a beautiful, calm evening for the big show.
That's right, for the show. Before that, I don't know. And guess where Arctic Jen will be Saturday? Guin, Alabama.
What?
Oh, okay. I will be in Guin, Alabama. Yeah, I leave. I'm making this a bigger trip, so I'm going to be leaving Wednesday, and I'm picking up my aunt, and we're going on a road trip. We're doing history, and then she's going to be there for the show and what have you. But we're going to go back to Guin, and we had Saturday planned for like a tour because we're almost ready to publish our story. And so I'm not sure what's going to be happening. Bill, maybe
the host is me. Okay.
I'm muting as fast as I can. I'm sorry.
I know, poor Rich. I hate it. But no, we were hoping to be doing a tour of Guin, but we may be doing, hopefully not chasing on Saturday, but it'll be interesting, that's for sure. And then I'll be in Huntsville on Sunday, and then of course for the show on Monday. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm excited.
So I was actually just up the road from Guin in Hamilton, Alabama, Saturday. We did one of our book events up there, and one of the commissioners of Guin, he was there, and a lot of people from Guin came up. And again, for those that don't know, the two towns really that were recognized, I think, after the super outbreak of 1974 were Xenia, Ohio, and Guin, Alabama, for the two F5s that came through those two communities. And Guin was quite the story. And Jen, Mayor Phil, he's been on the show here. Best hair in America when it comes to mayors, all right? And by the way, we have some great TV hair. We got some great TV hair coming up here in a few minutes.
Yep.
So I'm looking to. I don't think we can bring in Bill Murray yet. He's trying to get our guest on the line. So Brooks, let me just bring you in. Brooks Garner from Fox 35 in Orlando. You had a wild day. Goodness gracious, you were the talk of the weather tweeter today.
Inadvertently, not by not by choice, but yes, James. I'll tell you, I've been going to the weather conferences since 2004. Wow. And that's when I first heard you speak. I think it was in Louisville. It's where I met Rich Thomas as well years ago. And you've been formative in my career, and I appreciate that. And so I was literally thinking, what would James say? The WJ. What would you say? What would James say? It's and but on a serious note, I remember you were expressing frustration with the Tuscaloosa tornado, that if only people had listened, that maybe more lives would have been saved, and that really made an impact. And so I was doing my best despite this tornado that was actively hitting the station. If you guys saw the video, we had the condensation funnel come right over our building. I'd never seen anything like it, as far as like what are the chances, right? Statistically, that one spot on the planet would be hit by a tornado, much less on the air while we're covering the weather anyway. We catch it on the tower cam, we see it on our live radar, and then all of a sudden it sounds like people were throwing 9-iron golf clubs at the side of the building with debris slapping up on the walls, and then it sounded like somebody was throwing whole golf bags full of clubs on the roof, like a gaggle of angry golfers with debris. And turned out it was all pine trees and roofing material. And ultimately what impacted our building was equivalent of like an EF0, but like literally across I-4, 1,000 feet away, it was EF2 damage with winds of about 120 miles per hour, is confirmed by the National Weather Service. Weather Service was integral in getting us set up on the warnings. We gave them a major shout out on air, especially considering what's going on right now nationally. We wanted all the viewers to understand how much we value them. And I had an opportunity to speak to some various national media outlets today, and did the same thing, including Fox Network, talking about how great they were, and also used it as an excuse to talk about how great the National Weather Service in Houston was back in 2017 with Harvey. That was the last time I was at a station that got hit by something. In that case, Harvey flooded KHOU, and the station that was there for 57 years that brought Dan Rather through, that's the station that he grew up in, was essentially torn down, and they had to move it. So this was like kind of a PTSD moment of like, oh boy, here we go again. But more so, how do you save lives in this situation? And so I was channeling my inner span and doing my best. And long story short is, it seems like it worked. by miracle, even though we had literally homes flattened here where they're just reduced to rubble, and it's rare to see that in Central Florida. Only 1 out of 10 tornadoes here ever reach EF1 or EF2. So that alone is rare. That nobody was injured, nobody was killed. There were a couple of people that were trapped in a home. They had to be extracted by the sheriff, but they emerged without a scratch. And one lady who we're going to talk to tomorrow live on our Fox 35 Orlando, Good Day Orlando show, I think at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, we're going to talk to her Eastern time. She says she was listening, and when we started doing street by street mapping, talking about where the couplet is, what street it is relative to, and we're using our live radar. So this wasn't, the next round was good to confirm, but we were using our Barron radar. So we didn't have a delay. It was all real time. So I could zoom into that street level, even though the tornado was moving at 40 miles an hour. The update scans were fast enough where it was effective to zoom in. But she heard a cul-de-sac by name that she knew. She knew a subdivision by name, and she knew it was coming her way. And I said, we don't have basements here. So I said, get away from your windows, get to an interior room, maybe a utility room, a closet, just away from the windows, lowest floor to your home. And she did that. She was looking out the bay window, and she said no sooner or no later than 20 seconds from leaving that bay window, a giant 2x4 came missiling in and would have killed her. She was convinced it would have killed her. So she was kind enough to suggest that saved her life, and she was very thankful. So I'm very humbled by that, and I'm very honored if I had anything to do with her life being saved. But really, the most difficult part of the experience was my personal adrenaline rush, something I hadn't experienced in about 10 years. I got rear-ended. Thankfully, I was okay. I was at a stop sign. Somebody rear-ended me a decade ago, and I got out of the car shaking because, you just got in an accident, your car's totaled, and my gosh, hopefully everybody's okay. Fortunately, I was okay. Anyway, I felt the same way. It was a matter of managing the adrenaline, because when it registers that there's debris on the camera, a camera that's on the roof above your head in the building you're in, and it's coming your way, it got the blood pumping, got the heart beating. And if you saw the clip, my voice started elevating. I was trying to get people's attention as well to take cover, because in the building, they weren't listening. Everybody's got a normalcy bias that everything's gonna be normal. No, you don't understand. Get under the desk, guys. And I think that tone also helped to create a little bit of an urgency without it being panic, but it was a little bit of that borderline to mobilize people. And the people at home had never heard that tone before out of me. I'm always happy-go-lucky morning weather guy, and it helped to inspire their action plan to get to their safe place. So we used all those things we talk about in the weather conferences: get to your safe place, respect the polygon, and by God, act like you're James Spann.
I love it.
It was really good. I mean, again, I shared the coverage over on my Facebook page, and I'm thinking, goodness gracious, that is just a calm voice in a really challenging situation. And let's back up a little bit. Going into this, you had a marginal risk going in. I don't know if anybody expected an EF2 tornado this morning.
Right. Not even a marginal risk. That was for Southeast Florida. That was a couple counties down from us. So where we weren't even progged at the SPC. Not to throw shade at them. I mean, it was a dynamic environment. And Florida, it's very conditional. So you can have days where everything lines up and nothing happens, or you can have days like this where there's just so much micrometeorology involved. Maybe the dew point was a degree higher than thought. Maybe there's a little bit more shear with the approaching shortwave, but it was unexpected. We had issued what we call, I think a lot of stations have this, a weather impact day, to be ready for the chance of rain and thunderstorms and 1 or 2 severe storms, kind of a CYA outlook, really, covering your tail in case something pops up. We'd had a couple of severe storm warnings up along I-10 in North Florida, but nothing for Central Florida. And then all of a sudden, we're watching on that Barron radar, and we start to see on the reflectivity, the hook developing. I flip it over to the velocities, and there it is. There's the couplet developing. It started as a meso and started coming in. This is before a tornado warning was issued. I said, my goodness, this thing's 5 miles away from our TV station. This could become a tornado warning. We got to watch out for this one. And ultimately, maybe 2 minutes before it hit our station, they issued a tornado warning. And when we saw the debris and I realized it was a real tornado, I went on air and I said, listen, National Weather Service, if you're listening on the situational awareness monitors there at the office, this is a confirmed tornado. This is happening, and it's heading for Sanford, Florida. And if you might know, it's sort of a bigger city northeast of Orlando, Sanford. unfortunately made famous from some news that happened at Sanford over a decade ago. But it's a beautiful town. It's just northeast of Orlando. A lot of people live there, and it's heading right for there. So they're able to issue a confirmed tornado warning at that time. We were essentially the storm chasers, but in this case, the storm was chasing us.
Yeah, Brooks, you were the storm chasees all of a sudden. So
Right.
what did you think when you heard that debris hitting the building? I mean, that had to be crazy.
So we're fortunate where the building we're in is, and now I can say with authority, it's fortified, because we didn't have any damage on the inside of the building. The outside of the building got trashed. I mean, our outdoor weather deck is no longer. It's just done. People's cars. One of our meteorologists had their all the windows broken out of the car and the sunroof broken out, and so that's an insurance claim. But we got out on the good side. But I mean, I've heard golf ball size hail on that roof, and it sounded, I use these golf references, it sounds like somebody at the driving range dropping a super large jumbo bucket of balls on the roof. Maybe there's 15 or 20 people. That's what the golf ball size hail sounded like. This sounded like, it sounded like trees hitting the roof, like tree trunks getting lofted and dumped onto the roof. And my first thought was that, well, we're going to lose roof integrity pretty soon. And like every TV station, we've got this very complex lighting grid and the catwalk and all that stuff. And I was guessing we're going to have the roof get peeled off and lights falling. I mean, it's just an industrial building in an office park. Fortunately, that didn't happen. And again, we got like probably EF0, EF1 equivalent at worst in our location specifically. But it was panic inducing. And I felt, if you watch the clip, you can hear my breath getting deeper. And it was not I wasn't conscious of it, but I knew I was starting to feel amped up. So I need to like chill out. It was like, I've got 4 kids. 3 of them are under the age of 7. And it's kind of like when your kids run out when you're at the beach and you see a rip current and they're like going out straight to it. And you're like, no, stop. But you got to keep your cool and be the dad and just like maintain the authoritative tone, if you will, so that people understand that you're a rational person and that maybe your advice is sage advice.
Can you hear me?
I hear Rich.
Hey, so you've had an incredible day. I've been texting with you all day, and
yes,
your day. I'm sure your alarm went off. Mine went off at 2 a.m. this morning. What time? And by the way, you're gonna crash. You're gonna crash really hard tonight. Right?
I had about a 16-hour day today. Yeah, I was from 4 a.m. until I just got home about 10 minutes till 8. I'm at home right now. I've just got my fake background.
Well, you did a great job. Incredible job. I saw you all over Fox Weather today, and you were all over the place.
Rich.
Of course, you were on your air into the early evening newscast after doing the mornings. What an incredible day. So we're glad you're okay. We're glad you handled it so well. And,
Rich, you're my foundation. You're my emotional foundation, Rich. James is my logistics guy. You're the emotion guy. So between you guys, they say that we're all, what is the phrase about? We're on the shoulders of giants. So thank you guys.
Well, we appreciate you very much. Go get some rest, man.
Yeah. So was that a binding job offer for Bob Van Dillen or is that...
Did you see that?
Oh, I heard that. Yeah.
I had to reply very, very carefully because you never know who's watching. I mean, naturally, if they want to bring you to New York, what are you going to say? But we love living here in Orlando. We've got our family set up here. It's a really great place to be. And they're talking about getting rid of property taxes. So, hey, maybe it'll become even cheaper to live here. No, I digress. Florida's been nice. But yeah, Bobby Van Dillen he was funny. If you remember, Bobby he was doing some high water stuff in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Flash flooding over in
Buckhead. You called him out for that, Brooks. That was good.
I remember that he was super humble about it. I guess for some reason he doesn't like people talking about it. Maybe he thinks we all made it too big of a deal, but I kind of had fun with him a little bit. I was like, hey, I'm not a hero. It's just my job. But speaking of heroes, you actually saved somebody.
Well, you were a hero today, Brooks, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. We'll have to have you back before hurricane season and dig in deep.
Thank you guys.
But thank
you.
For
What an honor to be on the
999th episode. Great job, Brooks. Great job. You're the best.
Episode 999. Yep.
Yeah, right, standing invite, whatever. Just pick a date in March or April, and I guess March is almost gone. I guess you better pick a date in April or May, Brooks.
Guys, I mean what I say. You've done such a great job in the weather enterprise in the industry, bringing up the next generation. I just hope I can pass along the same information if we still have a business to the next generation coming up. I've been trying to be a good mentor to the people I work with, and I realized, how we're all getting older. I realized I'm 18 years older than the next youngest Met on our team. Or the next oldest Met. It's
it happens.
Yeah, you're really
it
old,
happens.
it does.
They're the
So I'm
future,
trying to be a good
but
mentor.
there's a better future coming, Brooks, and you're part of it. So
Yep.
thank you for what
Thank you so
do.
much.
We
And you're
appreciate you.
welcome to
Cheers.
stay, but I know you got a lot going on. So
Yeah, we go see the kids for the first time all day today. So thank you guys so much. Appreciate you.
thank
Hey,
you for coming,
later.
Brooks. All right, outstanding. Thank you, Rich Thomas, for making that happen tonight. That
Absolutely. I'm sorry for the audio difficulties earlier, but we're okay now.
You're only an audio guy, Rich. I mean, come on now. But formal introduction here. Tonight's guest, WeatherBrains, is a veteran meteorologist at Blue Water Broadcasting in Montgomery, Alabama. 45 years of experience.
40.
Longer than I.
We just started 48. Year 48.
Is that 48? That's not
Yeah,
even. That doesn't even seem real, Rich.
November 2nd, 1977, at WHHY.
You don't get to count second, third, and fourth grade in the elementary school weather center. That doesn't count. But he served as the chief meteorologist at WSFA in Montgomery for 34 years. All my numbers are wrong. Before transitioning to radio, where he continues to deliver trusted forecasts to Central Alabama. Tonight, we welcome Alabama weather legend Rich Thomas to the show. And I have to get that in, Rich, because those intros are such a fabulous montage, and that's a part of what we're going to do next week. All the incredible people that have been on this show, and you showed up at a NWA thing or something along the way.
But yeah, I've done a couple of cameos with you when you set up on our Monday night soirees.
Yeah,
those were fun.
Yeah, those are very fun. But we thought we needed to have you on here tonight, so we're glad we're glad we got that happen. But talk to us, our requisite question. And I wondered the other day, somebody was asking me, somebody asked me the question, when did you get interested in the hotel business and travel? And nobody had ever asked me that in 44 years.
Yeah.
But they always ask you that in weather because we all share that in common. What was it for you?
Well, I think most of us in this business, just about everybody I've heard, knew early on. I mean, you just know. And my mom and dad knew because I would broadcast to them on the blackboard with the weather, and when I was old enough to talk. And I think that's a common story in our business. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. Here I am spending my entire adult life in Montgomery, Alabama, and I'm from a little town 21 miles west of downtown Cleveland. And there was a guy on Cleveland television, and I think he is certainly one of the reasons I'm in this business, named Dick Goddard.
On here twice. Two of my favorite shows, yeah.
He is the James Spann of Cleveland television.
Yeah. We always say James is the Dick Goddard of Birmingham television.
Well, listen, so there were a lot of people on television in the 60s that presented the weather, quote unquote. You know what I mean? They were announcers and they presented the weather. But Dick Goddard, he was the real deal. And of course, he had not only the teletype machine, he had the FAA Service A teletype with all the observations coming in. He had NAFAX back in the, he was the real deal. And not only that, he was on Channel 8, but the guy on Channel 3, you may know this name too, Wally Kanaan. You ever heard of Wally Kanaan?
Heard of him.
He was famous, and he put isobars on weather maps in the 1960s. Isobars.
And the consultants went crazy. They probably went crazy.
Oh, well, his audience loved it. I mean, as a geek, weather geek, I loved it. He had upper air maps on the air, and again, this is the 1960s. And then my dad really he supported me by taking me to the U.S. Weather Bureau at Cleveland Hopkins Airport. This is before, it was, what was it, October 1st, 1970, when they became the National Weather Service. They were the U.S. Weather Bureau. And so, and then he also took me to College Park, Maryland, to the U.S. Weather Bureau headquarters. A little boy, that's how much he encouraged me. So how did I get to the Deep South? In a word, scholarships, University of Southern Mississippi. I was in Hattiesburg, and I just realized I got into broadcasting 50 years this summer. Oh my gosh, how could that be? On WHSY Hattiesburg, the sister station of WHHY Montgomery. And all along they were grooming me to go with Larry Stevens and be on WHHY, which James, was a legendary station at the time as far as tight. It could have been dropped in any market. And so I was a rock and roll disc jockey. I was playing the hits, but I was also doing the weather. Whenever there was any kind of weather situation, I was Larry's go-to guy. And by the way, back in those days, radio was more immediate for weather coverage than TV.
Oh yeah, it was everything.
Yeah.
It was quicker to get on the air. It was laborious to get on the air on television back in those days. And we're talking now the late 70s. We did wall-to-wall coverage on the radio of Hurricane Frederick. Hurricane Frederick was the first hurricane. Well, it was the first year that there were male names. And of course, we know what Frederick did. So then one day I answered the request line, and it was Carl Stevens at WSFA TV. And he said, hey, we've been listening to you do the weather, and we were wondering, have you ever thought about doing TV weather? And I said, as a matter of fact, it's the only thing I've ever wanted to do in my life. And he says, well, come on over and let's do an audition. So I went over there, and I've got the tape too. It looks like a prom jacket. It's a white prom jacket. And I thought I was pretty shaky. Hey, Troy. Hi. How are you, buddy?
Oh, man, Rich, good to see you, buddy. Thanks for joining us tonight.
See you. We, you and I go back not only years, we go back decades, don't we?
We do, buddy. Yeah. We make James Spann look young, So.
Yeah.
Well, James, you and I have been sort of into business roughly the same amount of time. I just started year 48 of doing what I consider the weather, even though I was a disc jockey back at the very beginning. But you were also a disc jockey at one time, right? I mean, you worked in that same building on Norman Bridge Road.
We had very similar paths coming up. And I think the radio thing helped me, number one, learn more about communicating with people.
Yeah, true.
I was a very big introvert. If you know me very well, I'm really and truly, believe it or not, a man of few words. And most people that do this are kind of quiet. But that radio deal, I did it for 5 years through high school, and I started there in high school. Same thing, playing rock and roll music. It was 1973, November of 73.
Wow.
And worked there until summer of 78, when the same thing happened to me. I got a call from the TV station, and they said, we like what you're doing with weather on the radio, because the 70s, they were violent. It was a violent decade. We had the super outbreak. We've talked about that in 74. I could write a book just on the 70s. I thought the world was ending. But I got a call from a guy at the local TV station, just like you, Rich, and he was going to pay me $1.85 an hour to do weather on television. Are you kidding me? You're going to pay me. This was a raise.
Right.
This was a raise. Understand, I was making $1.70 an hour at the radio station, $1.80 an hour to do weather. And so I'm thinking, man, life is getting good here. So, and I was an electrical engineering student, not meteorology, but double E.
Oh my gosh. How about that?
So the TV thing for me started in 78. And I remember listening to you driving to Hurricane Frederick. That was my first week on the air in Birmingham. Very first week. And for those that don't know, I don't want to share too many boring personal stories here, but I went from that little TV station in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where I made $1.80 an hour, to Montgomery, to WSFA.
You did sports for a while.
I did, because they gave me an offer to do sports, and I'm thinking, this is Channel 12. I'm from Greenville, Alabama. Growing up, you could pick up one TV station, and that was it. Nothing will ever get this big in my life. I've hit the peak of my career at the age of 21 here. But I went to Birmingham to be the main weather guy at the NBC channel in September of 1979.
Wow.
And the first week was the week of Frederick. And they, instead of putting me on TV in front of the wall, they sent me down there. And I was listening to you on the radio on WHHY. And I'm thinking, this guy's good. Of course, I'd listen to you when I was in the Gump. I mean, everybody listened. But Rich was a big deal back then. He was the Elvis of the radio back in the 70s. WHHY, everybody listened to you and Larry and Chris O'Kelly and David Jeremy Beecher and all these guys.
It was also a breakout station, James. You know what I mean? As far as if a record became a hit on WHHY, the big stations like WLS and WABC in New York we were a key indicator station. So yeah, when I became music director over there, that was tall cotton, because I have record executives from New York flying in to meet 22-year-old Rich, and say, hey, we want to get our record on your radio station. But I considered myself a weather guy, and so did Larry. When Larry turned on the radio and heard me doing the weather, like during severe weather, he felt, okay, we're good if Rich is there. So,
so Rich, you would have been one of my heroes if you'd been in the Birmingham market. That was really important. I want to circle back to that. But Span, I need one more boring personal story out of you I don't think we've ever talked about. I hear there was a pirate radio station in your high school. I was hearing a story about this. Is this true? Do we need an expose on this?
It was very illegal. It was very illegal. Yeah. We built a radio station in the projection room of the auditorium.
Yeah.
And I brought a ham radio transmitter from the house, a Nike T150 transmitter, and I modified it to work on the AM broadcast band. And for some reason, I picked 1510. It was on 1510. I think mainly because I could tune it at night to WLAC in Nashville to be sure it's on the right frequency, so the kids during the day could hear it in their cars. And it was, to be legal, you basically, you should be able to hear it in the building. You could hear that thing across the river in Northport. We ran 1,000 watts.
Right.
And
the
FCC is still looking for you, James.
They are. They're trying to find me. But go search YouTube. In fact, I should make that my pick of the week. James Spann, YouTube 1974. And they did an interview with me in that pirate radio station. And the principal, Doug Killow, he didn't even know what we were doing. He just, it's a great experience for our kids. He had no idea this was an illegal operation up here. So hey, James, I'll make that my pick of the week.
On my pirate station, I had, 2 turntables. I'm just a teenage boy, 13 years old. And we're timing into network news, stealing the NBC radio news on the hour, but timing into it. The record ended right at the right second. NBC radio news on the hour. Anyway, so
that is so awesome. So now, Rich, you were covering severe weather live on the radio. People were tuning to you. Did y'all have a weather wire in your station?
We had a weather wire, not only at WHHY, but I convinced them at WHSY Hattiesburg. I twisted their arm and said we needed a weather wire, so we got a weather wire. But that was real important. And when the owner heard the way I was doing weather coverage, he said, fine, that justifies the cost of the damn weather wire. So let me get back to James. And you mentioned the 1974 outbreak. I was a teenager in Ohio, and of course Xenia was a big deal. But here in Alabama, that night, that was the big deal, right? Where were you at, James? On that night?
Don't get Jen started about that night.
Yeah, so I was a senior in high school. I was class of 74, and I had a ham radio license. Yeah. And they desperately needed communication volunteers because in 1974 they had no cell phones, none, zero. Yeah. And so Mr. Killow, the same guy that interviewed me or was interviewed about that pirate station, he gave me 3 days off to go volunteer. So I spent 3 days working communication duties in places like Jasper and Ewan and Huntsville. And it was life-changing. It changed my life. I saw things a 17-year-old child shouldn't see, especially that first night in Jasper, because they put us at the People's Hospital in the ED, the emergency department there. Yeah. So it was a life-changing time for me working as a volunteer with my ham radio gear. And the ham radio thing was critical. I tell people all the time, you want to do something cool, get a ham license. Because one day when that big EMP hits, one day when we have a Carrington event, your fancy cell phone's not going to work. And your old tube radio that you've got, that sucker, that analog radio is going to work, and that's going to let you communicate with the world. So in the 70s, it was a big deal, and I still think ham radio is a big deal today.
I do too. And I could do the code. Were you real good at the code? Did you do the code?
Oh man, I was doing 55 words per minute. I couldn't write that fast, but I could hear it. And to this day, it's like a second language.
I
So,
love it.
passing the extra class, you needed 20 words a minute.
Yeah.
That was nothing. It was easy. And again, my major was electrical engineering when I was in college. So the exams, were okay. But it's a great hobby. It's great.
Let me say this. First of all, it is an honor to be on WeatherBrains number 999. And 19 years you've been doing this. And I'm going to say this too, James. I'm going to make you squirm a little bit. I'm sorry, but you're just going to have to sit through this. There are a lot of people who are alive today because of you, because of your abilities. In fact, I am so jealous. I am so jealous of, in a word, geography. Your geography,
Yep.
you know every intersection, you know every restaurant and business and road in the northern 2/3. I just
The whole
don't
state,
know how to
Rich.
do
It's
it.
not the northern 2/3. He
No, it's more
earned
than
it.
that. It's more
Yeah,
than that.
he earned
It's
it. It's all
now
67 counties.
it is uncanny. And I wish I had 10% of what you got as far as geography. And there are so many
Rich,
people, so many people alive because of you. What?
I can
What?
give you the secret.
Yeah.
Are you
Okay.
ready for the secret? It's
I'm
real
ready.
easy.
All right.
All you got to do is go visit 2 or 3 schools in 67 counties
Every
of the
day.
state, every day
Okay.
of the year.
Every day.
Yep.
So just
Every
start
day.
right now, and
Now,
in about 40 years, you'll be caught up with me.
But I don't think probably the schools helped with Wesley's. But
now,
Well,
you
explain
I will
that
say,
one, James.
I will say that Wesley's is right by Bagley Junior High School. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
there's a school right to get to Bagley Junior High. You got to go by Wesley's, or Summerton Christian, or Dora High School, or trust me, there's schools near Wesley's. But
I always get hungry when I'm
it,
listening to him doing severe weather coverage because he's naming so many restaurants. I get so hungry. But,
he likes barbecue. What can you say, Rich? I mean,
but okay, so and the other thing is, I've spoke to hundreds of schools. You've spoke to thousands of schools. For instance, on episode 1000 next week, you're going to be in Foley, Alabama, speaking to a school. I mean, out of your market. I try to be reasonable. I try to keep it, if possible, within 70 miles or 75 miles of Montgomery, if possible. But you are going to be in Foley next week, and you're so giving of your time. And I'm wondering how many people you have mentored over the years. Now, I know there's about 9 or 10 or 11 people I know that are in the business because they say that I mentored them, and this makes me feel good. Maybe that'll get me into heaven, say Peter. I don't know. I'm not sure. But you've been such a great thing for this industry. And plus some of your posts. For instance, just the other day, after that severe weather last week, you were calling out some of these idiots on the internet who were talking about there's going to be a generational tornado outbreak worse than April 27th, 2011. And of course, there was not one tornado that night in the state of Alabama. I love that. Plus, another post a few days earlier was also interesting and well worded, I thought. It started off with a sentence like this: if you follow me, you know I don't do politics. That's the way that I said, oh, this is going to be great. This is going to be. And then, of course, you were talking about the potential problems and situation and cutbacks at NOAA and the National Weather Service. But it was very well handled. And so thank you, first of all, for this honor. And also, thank you for being you. Thank you for being James Spann,
Bill Rich is my new publicist here. He's hired. He's hired.
We got a check waiting for you after the show, Rich. But Rich, you were 33, 35, 38, 47 years at WSFA. My numbers are never quite right. 34. I think you said 35. Okay, well, 34. I'm wrong again. 34. What were the biggest changes you saw during that time in broadcast television?
Well, okay. First of all, I started standing in front of let me turn that noise on my phone off. We started with standing in front of a national weather map, and then you'd go over to chroma key, and then there was the enterprise radar interface with 4-bit radar. Now 4-bit is really bad resolution, but we were connected to the WSR 74 at Danley Field in Montgomery, and the WSR 57. Remember when CKL Centerville?
Centerville.
Yep.
It was a weather office that did upper air observations and had a WSR 57. Well, that means 1957, folks. So that's what we had, and then of course, and I had a DIFAX map. So I don't predate back to NAFAX, but I do go back to DIFAX. Oh, well, let's talk about this since I'm talking about DIFAX. We got an anniversary coming up. Today's the 10th. So on the 12th is the anniversary of the superstorm of the century, so-called 1993.
Yep.
Hey, James, I want to talk to you about it, or anybody who wants to chime in, maybe Troy, about the models that week. Now, this is a Friday night event, but on Monday, a model called the LFM, the Limited Fine Mesh, and the AVN were screaming about this storm and printing out tremendous snow totals just to the east of Birmingham. And we were laughing on Monday because, we were saying, oh, that's not funny. Wouldn't that be funny if that really happened? And of course, it did.
Nobody was laughing at me. I was gassing up generators and calling in staff and trying to get my TV station. I was at Channel 42 then to take it seriously. And of course they didn't. They taped the 10 o'clock news at 6 o'clock on Friday night and all went home. And that was the end of the weekend. I was looking forward to this James Spann sort of thing where you sleep on the floor and bring sardines and eat crackers and stuff like that.
And I
didn't get to enjoy any of that.
I mean, Rich, there wasn't anything that storm didn't produce. If that thing wound in the northern Gulf, we had storm surge in the northwest Florida Panhandle.
Exactly, people died. People died.
Yeah.
And then we had tornadoes in the mainland Florida, middle of the night. If you remember, I believe it produced the highest non-hurricane thunderstorm wind gust at Key West as well. And not non-thunderstorm. It was thunderstorm.
Right, well, listen,
not hurricane.
In Montgomery, Alabama, lowest station pressure ever, and records began in 1872. But it was eclipsed by Opal a couple years later.
Right.
But highest sustained winds ever in station history. Record low temperature. There was only 4 inches of snow at Danley Field officially, but drifts were measured in feet. Now, this is Montgomery now. It's nothing like the paralyzing effect in Birmingham. But
if you also remember
thunder snow.
Yeah, no, I was going to mention the lightning with the snow in Atlanta and Birmingham, I believe, in both places. And
we definitely had Birmingham.
Yeah.
It got down to 37 degrees in my house after that event. Right? It was life threatening.
Yeah.
And I looked out and there were wild dogs on top of my Sunbird. I had taken all my food from the freezer out and put it on the roof of my car, thinking that was a smart idea. And I looked out and there was a pack of dogs on top of my Sunbird.
That's another show. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I really thought God had ended the world with snow. I looked out across the street and I couldn't even see the neighbor's first floor. It was completely under snow drill.
Let me tell you about the first big deal day I had was May 3rd, 1984. And I was just a young puppy dog, but really young. I mean, I looked like, does your mommy know you're on TV? That kind of young. But that day we had 3 tornado events in one day in Montgomery. The first one at 7 in the morning killed 5 people. It was an EF3 on the Northern Bypass. Then things got quiet. Then I noticed on Centerville another line of storms, a big cluster was coming in. So on the noon show, I said, this is going to be a big deal. At 2 o'clock, we lost power. And there was a tornado very close to the station. And like Brooks did, I yelled to everybody, on the intercom, get into between the 2 studios, to Studio A and Studio B. That's the most secure place. It was down in the basement of WSFA. And we were without power for 3 hours. So the generator at that time would only power up 1 television camera, 1 light, 1 tape machine, 1 mic, and the weather wire. That was it. So I sat there for 2.5 hours, this young kid, and carried the television station because we lost NBC. And every once in a while, one of the reporters would come in and sit beside me, and we'd air some raw footage. That was the afternoon event. There was one more during the 6 o'clock news. Funnel cloud passed right over the TV station, and there was large hail hitting the roof above me. So that was my day on May 3rd, 1984. It was much, I mean, what Brooks went through today reminded me of that.
So Rich, do you think that was your biggest event in Montgomery history, or what would you classify as your biggest event?
No. I mean, that was just the first. That was just the first big one. There's a couple that I'll mention. There's a couple that I get emotional when I mention this one. On March 1st, and we just had the anniversary of this, 2007, it's the Enterprise tornado, the Enterprise High School tornado. We all knew, all of us in this business knew that was going to happen someday. You know, that was going to happen. It was bound to happen. So, boy, I hope I don't get emotional. But the producer came in my ear and said, and Desmond said, "Hey, Rich, there are fatalities at Enterprise High School, but you can't say that yet because we have to get one more verification on that." Well, I mean, that was an incredible moment. But you know what Enterprise did? It changed the world. After that, every public school that was built in Alabama after Enterprise, now has a safe place with rated for 150-mile-an-hour winds. So that's what Enterprise did. And the other thing it did, James, was schools started canceling classes. Whenever there was a severe weather threat, right?
And I actually went down there to talk with the superintendent because what happened, your New York, Los Angeles people came in here and mocked him. And he said he killed those kids because he didn't send them home. Listen, if he would have sent those kids home, they would have been in their car. Absolutely. They would have been at home playing video games. They would have been in a mobile home. And the death toll, instead of being 9, would have been probably 50 or more. And that guy saved countless lives by making the right decision. Yep. And even to this day, I do believe that when these schools start to dismiss, and I understand they have a hard job, but they should at least leave one school in the system open. One. Yes. So instead of sending kids home alone to a mobile home that's a death trap during a tornado, they have the option of being in a good site-built structure with a teacher that would stay with them and a chance of surviving. I just think that needs to be an option for schools that are in rural settings like that. So anyway, that was a very hard day. In fact, I was in Enterprise. Goodness, I've been to Brookwood Elementary and Enterprise recently, and also at the other big elementary school down there. And they still talk about it, Rich, like it happened yesterday. Everybody's got a story.
Of course. Enterprise, that tornado changed the world. I do want to talk about obviously the biggest event, of course, April 27th, 2011, and some of the complexities, James, of that day. That morning outbreak. Well, no. Let me back up. First of all, how about the modeling on that? 10 days out, we knew that there was something horrific going to happen. 10 days out, we knew, and we thought even a week out, can you imagine if it really did verify like this? And of course, it did. James, I know you get very emotional about and we all do, about 252 people. How could that happen in this modern age? How could 252 people die? But there were a lot of complexities of that day. Talk about how that morning event, James, that morning event complicated everything because of the power outages and some of the weather radios and the sirens were off. And some people thought, oh, that must be it. That must be the severe weather they were talking about. And of course, that wasn't.
The iPhone was only 4 years old in 2011, so not everybody had a smartphone, but some did, and the haters were in full force during the middle of the day because the sun broke out after the morning round of storms. You nitwits blew it. It's a beautiful day. So, we had that going on. And understand, I honestly did not think the morning would be as bad as it was. I didn't think that. And, we had 5 people that were killed in the morning round of storms, and About a quarter of a million people had no power, and we had infrastructure damage. There was all kind of issues, and so many people had no power going into the afternoon, and we were pretty crippled. A lot of people don't know how crippled we were as a state. Here at the TV station, we were crippled, and it made it hard for the afternoon evening event. But Rich, to your question, how did all these people die? Here's the right answer. We don't know anything about social science. Nothing. We don't know anything about human behavior. My first major in college was electrical engineering and then meteorology. I don't know anything about human behavior. That's why it's always a chem question when these things come up. It's a chem question. And I remember, Kim, didn't we talk right after 2011 happened? And thinking, praise God for this woman, because she understands the issues that we don't understand. So thanks to Kim, Rich. She's a hero here.
Well, thank you guys. Seriously, you guys all made our field what it is, that there could be this continued endeavor to learn more. I mean, that's the reason why we just keep growing, because we want to have these answers. We want to do the best job. Everything you're talking about is just how deeply you care about all of this. So it's incredible to me sitting and listening to you all. I'm remembering I did meet you, Span. That's where I met you, was coming out 6 weeks after the outbreak.
Yeah.
And this was one of my dissertation studies. Back in December of 2010, my committee had said, I had a bunch of experiments planned. And they said, that's really lovely and all, but you're a geography PhD student, and we want you to do more things in the real world too, not just abstract experiments. If anything happens in 2011, you should be ready to go out into the field. So I was one of few people who was studying how people respond to tornado alert systems and was ready to go. And there I was. So I'm still so grateful for how welcoming you all were of me then, and that persisted for forever to this day.
Didn't you find out that people, some people just waited for a second verification, and if they would have taken action immediately, they might have been alive?
Well, there was all of that. Yeah. I mean, what's crazy is, for the most part, there were some people who were surprised by the morning storms. I mean, I think everyone was somewhat surprised. There were some people then who lost power and weren't really able to follow things into the afternoon. But the majority of people were still able to follow it, and were still concerned and aware. But yeah, it surprised me just how much even people who would watch a storm, they'd have all these sophisticated methods of watching something come at them for well over an hour. And because these things were on the ground for over 100 miles in some instances. And they'd be watching it come right at them. They'd know it was coming at them. And they'd still need to do things that confirm in the environment and all of that stuff, right at the last minute. And I think part of it is just this challenge of, our warnings are kind of big, and tornadoes are actually kind of a small fraction of it. It's a really rational thing for people to do. For the most part, people who had a really good place to go fared pretty well when they did that. But there were some people who tuned out, early on, and just.
I think we found out that helmets would have helped save a lot of lives that day if people were wearing helmets. Yes, right.
It's possible. I mean, it's something that the health community still discusses, because we really don't have good evidence for it one way or the other. But we do know a lot of people die from head trauma. That's, I think, on April 27th, that was a full third of deaths. So this is why people advise it. And I'll say, as long as you are ready to be in your shelter, not scrambling around your house, in a garage or something, instead of being in a basement or in an interior room, rummaging around for your helmet, as long as you're ready, you might as well. Yeah, no harm for sure.
James, let's talk about the supercell of all supercells. That one that came out of Mississippi dropped a tornado in Tuscaloosa, and of course that was on the ground for, I think, 84 miles. But that supercell produced a lot of tornadoes all the way into, from Mississippi all the way into North Carolina. I'm there on the 5 o'clock news, and there's a big monitor behind me, and there's this huge web tornado coming into Tuscaloosa, and people think, oh, that must be video. No. That's a live tornado right now, and of course we knew that a lot of people were going to die. So there's people in your ear screaming information to you, and then you're spitting out paragraphs. But meanwhile, in your heart of hearts, you know what is about to happen. Horrific moment, and your coverage was absolutely incredible. By the way, I want to mention somebody's name, Greg Budell, who I'm on the radio with every morning on News Talk 93.1, calls you Dr. James Spann, and you may have a doctorate. I don't know.
There's two of us. I'm the other one that calls him.
All right, okay. And
I don't have the kind that Kim has, or that James A has. James A, are you a PhD yet?
Not yet. Getting closer.
Okay. Well, see, they have the real ones. I have an honorary, which is not the real one. So
he has watched every second of your. I forget how many hours of coverage you guys did that day, but I'm sure he's watching right now too, as well. But an incredible day in weather history, and like you said, you've always said it's a generational event. We went through two of these. You remember April 3rd and 4th, 1974, and of course, who knows if we'll ever see another one quite on that caliber. But it was the perfect storm as far as everything had to come together in just the right way. Hey, we got some weather coming up this weekend. Yes,
wait, we're not through now with you. Hang on here.
Hang on. You got a long way to
go. Tell me about the work in the Lake Martin tornado, April 27th.
Okay, well, so we were at the southern end of all the major tornadoes, but we had one EF4 in our DMA, and that came out of Elmore County. Actually started in Lowndes County, came into Elmore County, destroyed a trailer park, and then became an EF5, went across the border from Elmore County into Tallapoosa County, and talk about splinters. So I was broadcasting live the next day from the trailer park that got completely mauled, and I forget how many people. I think 5 people died at that particular trailer park, and 7 people died in that particular supercell, that tornado. So that was we were at the southern. We weren't in the heart of it like you were, of course, up in your region up there. We can talk about. You want to talk about a couple of hurricanes that I went through? Yes.
Yeah, that's where we're going next. So come on, talk about what's the most famous hurricanes. Obviously, Opal.
Okay,
what
so
else is big? I guess Frederick was big for you.
Yeah, but that was radio, and that's ancient history. Here's one. I'm on the 10 o'clock news on October 3rd, 1995. And we're watching Opal in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico, and it was just starting to go through rapid intensification on the 10 o'clock news. So now we have a Category 3. Well, I woke up to do some radio hits for some stations the next morning, and it was nearly a Category 5. It was like 155 mile an hour winds, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is a different animal. So fortunately, of course, before it came ashore, there was some dry air that infused into it and weakened it to a Category 3. But so Opal during the 10 o'clock news is right over the city of Montgomery with winds gusting to over 90 miles per hour at Maxwell and at Danley Field. And water starts rushing into the studio. I'm not exactly sure how that happened, but they're now moving the anchors from one set to another set. So this is right during the 10 o'clock news. One person died in Montgomery with Opal. This was a famous person, and she died because of her generator was not ventilated. So we had 1 death in Montgomery because of that. But for heaven's sakes, Atlanta had 5 deaths because of falling trees. It was a prolific tree. It just mauled trees. That was Opal. And then the other big one for me was Ivan, as was September 16th, 2004. Ivan was a slower moving storm, but if you look at all the records that Ivan broke from the time it was on a low latitude just off the South American coast, every record that Ivan ever broke, it is one of the most amazing hurricanes ever, including the most tornadoes ever recorded. 120 tornadoes with Ivan. Unbelievable. And remember when Ivan then went off the U.S. East Coast, circled around, came back over Florida, and then they had to make a decision at the National Hurricane Center. Do we give this system a new name, or do we call it Ivan? And they decided to call it Ivan, and it made another landfall.
So Rich, go back to severe weather preparedness for a minute. Do you think people are more prepared or less prepared than they were 40, 50 years ago when we first doing this?
I think there's more awareness now. I really do. I try to tell people, don't pay attention to the sirens, and make sure you have a great weather app, and make sure your weather radio is on, because it's as important in your house as a smoke alarm. I generally think that people are more aware. The thing about it is, when you've been in this business as long as James and I have been, people know me. They've watched me their whole life, so they want to hear my voice. In other words, they know me like a family member, and they want to hear. They know when I emphasize certain things, or my body language, or I'm not wearing a jacket on the air. They know Rich good enough to know, okay, this is a call to action. If Rich says we need to do this, then we need to do this. And that's the same with James. Respect the Polygon, for heaven's sakes. Come on.
So, Rich, in that same vein, talk about your day now doing radio, because you're communicating in a little different way for the last 7-8 years. Talk about how you're keeping radio relevant and important in this day and age. Us older folks appreciate it. Jen does it every day in her 386 markets that she serves.
Well, I would say
with her 20-second hits. But talk about what your day's like, what you do, what you try to do.
2:00 in the morning, my alarm goes off. It will go off at 2:00 tomorrow morning as well. And I put together a blog, and I put together a video. So that's well before I even get to the station. And then we do 3 hours on News Talk 93.1. But my forecast is on 8 radio stations, and every day of the year, including I record the weather on Christmas Day. I work every day, and I don't have to. 3 years ago, I could have retired. My financial guy in Charlotte says, Rich, do you realize you don't have to work another day in your life? You're set. I said, I know, John, but what would I do? What would I do? There's this feeling of, everybody wants this feeling of self-worth, and people grab my arm at a store and say, well, I'm alive today because you told me when to go to my safe place, and don't ever retire. So, and I heard you, James, on about 3 episodes ago on WeatherBrains say, you were talking about during this Allen radio group thing, you were saying that you love your job and you have no plans to retire. And I'm sure everybody loves to hear that, because the day James Spann retires, it's a big day in Alabama.
No, come on. I'm just getting started. Let's get real here. I mean, I literally feel better now physically and mentally than I felt when I was 30 years old. So as long as I have the energy and the mental cognition to do this job right, I'm all in. I'll never stop. And the minute, my brain starts to fade and I'm calling East Aboga Andalusia or vice versa, then you'll know you need to maybe go fishing or something. But I think being in good physical condition really helps you stay in good mental condition. And going to that gym, what I've done for the last 8, 9, 10 years, that's been a big help. I've lost weight. I feel good. And I'm only sleeping 3 hours a night, but so what? My body's adjusted to it, and I do better on the weekend. And it's just, I feel I cannot wait. My wish for everybody listening to this show is that you cannot wait to wake up in the morning and go do what you do in a day. That's my wish for everybody, because I've had that for 47 years. I can't wait to wake up, and they're paying me, whether it's $1.80 an hour or whatever it is today, to do what I do for a living. And you don't do it for the money. You just do it because you love it. And
you got to love it. You got to love it because the hours are crazy. The hours are crazy.
And you deal with the trolls and the haters and the know-it-alls and all this stuff. That's just part of the game. and you tend to focus on the positives and not the negatives. The lack of sleep and the trolls. Yeah, I can handle that. Listen,
I love it when
you can't hurt my feelings. I have no feelings left to hurt.
I love it when your post begins. Good morning to all of you, except this guy.
Except this guy. I got some good ones in the can I need to break out. I keep them saved when I feel like posting. One guy today just called me an MF an idiot with no explanation. That was a good one.
Is that right?
Yeah. Again, trust me, if you ever have an ego in my position, if you start to think something special about yourself, don't worry, you'll be brought down soon enough over
here. All right.
So Troy, that wasn't you that sent that in, was it?
No.
Hey, Troy, what are you doing now? Are you teaching or what? Tell me what you're doing.
Rich, I finally retired. I retired after 34 years. What was it? 88. So, gosh, it's been 35 years teaching. Ended at the end of December, and now just doing emergency management meteorology stuff. I got you. Working with emergency management and kind of on my own schedule, and got several clients and enjoying. Although I've been busier since I've retired than when I was.
Yeah,
when I wasn't, but I think that'll settle down.
I'll be in Texas here in a few days for the National Tropical Weather Conference.
Yes,
South Padre Island, and going there. I think I'm now up to about 100 conferences. It's kind of crazy. 3 this year and 3 last year, and all on my dime, by the way. And people say, well, that's geeky, that's nerdy. No, it isn't. For me, it's not only the learning experience. To me, it's a reunion.
Absolutely.
I go to AMS broadcast. That's a certain group of people that I don't see at NWA. You know what I mean?
Right. You're right.
And same with the National Tropical Weather Conference as well. So I love this stuff. These are my vacations, as nerdy as that sounds.
Yeah, but you are financially independent, according to your guy in Charlotte, Rich. So
he says I am.
You got that going for you.
He says that. Yeah.
So, Rich, talk to us about advice for young people today, because we always go to that. Folks that are wanting to break into this, there's probably some discouragement these days. A lot of folks are concerned.
I feel sorry for somebody breaking into our business, especially the television broadcast business at this juncture, because stations are not paying what they used to. You know that, James, and you'd almost have to have another job. As much as I want to encourage, and by the way, there are 2 stations here in town where there are openings and they can't fill them because people who are coming out of, Mississippi State or wherever are going to a top 10 market because they can. Because top 10 markets are now hiring the younger ones for a lot of reasons. They can get them for cheaper, by the way. But it's really tough for a station in Montgomery, Alabama, when there is an opening, to fill it now, because it's getting tougher and tougher. By the way, thinking of Mississippi State, one more thing about Mississippi State. I was in Binkley's first class. I was in Mark Binkley's first class.
Yeah.
A long time ago.
Rich, do you think there's any chance they'll adapt? I mean, they need to adapt. They're obviously not adapting. Is it not possible that they'll adapt and that something new has got to develop?
Well, I think it will. I'm not sure what shape that will take, but if you love the weather like we do, like everybody here does, you're gonna do it anyway.
You'll find a way.
You're
gonna find a way. So, what do you see as the future? What do you think the future looks like?
There's a lot of people who are about to, I'm not even going to name some names, but about to get out of television meteorology and start their own concerns. That Tennessee Valley guy's doing that, and I know I'd love to say who I know is about to do it, get out of television, but I'm not going to. But I think there's going to be more people, private enterprise type situations. What do you think, Troy?
I agree with you. It's interesting, but we talk about it, and James talks about it a lot, about where the future of this business goes. I still think there'll be weather broadcasts, but look at what we're doing now with the with the seven of us on this. And there's so many other ways now. And I think TV, as James has said, probably is going to more streaming. The 5, 6, and 10 days, guys, ended a long time ago.
Standing in front of a desk at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Why? Because everybody's looking at their phone. I don't get it.
Hey, let me play some audio. Let's see if Rich has ever heard this station before here. Listen to this real carefully, Rich.
Okay.
Uh-oh, hang on. Never mind. That's the wrong one. Dadgummit. I thought I had the right one in there. I will probably never find it now. But I was gonna play some radio audio from 1977.
Yeah.
Where were you in 1977, Rich?
I was in Hattiesburg until November 2nd, 1977. Then I was at WHHY in Montgomery. That's the date I started, November 2nd, 1977.
Wow. So going back to the radio days when you worked with Larry, what shift did you work when you came?
Well, first of all, it was the all night show, but then it became middays. When Crystal Kelly left, I went to middays, and then I was music director. And then the TV station called, and I got that job. And Larry had just promoted me to program director of WHHY. He says, "Oh no!"
So listen to this and see if you ever recognize this station.
He read 5 more shots to death last night. Now, stay true, but you know that you should never choose a set of false teeth from the street.
There's Larry.
Why that? Why shouldn't pick your teeth in public?
How?
Does that sound familiar?
Yes, it does. Absolutely. How about that? How about that broadcast house? It's a house at 3435 Norman Bridge Road. You broadcast from there, right? Yeah,
I did. It was an honor to be able to work in that Norman Bridge Road house.
Yeah.
I got a note from Larry Stevens the other day. I thought that was kind of cool. He seems like he's doing fine.
Oh yeah, he is. In fact, I'm gonna be at lunch with him tomorrow at the Kiwanis Club luncheon, but we are the checks from the Alabama. What am I trying to say? The fair checks will be handed out tomorrow. So we'll be at that event tomorrow at the Kiwanis Club in downtown Montgomery.
One more thing. I know we have to take a break, but one cool thing they did for me, they let me into WSFA before they got out of there. One more time, they let us in. Bob Howell.
I saw that.
And Dave Rickey and I had a chance to get in there one more time before they moved out. And they didn't have to do that because I worked really for a competing company. But I thought that was so classy of them because I only spent a brief amount of time at Channel 12 in 1978 and 1979, but it was very formative for me. It was very important for me. I made some amazing friends. I look back on I learned so much about television and communication. I made so many good friends. Goodness, the laughs I had with the guy named Norman Lumpkin. You ever heard of Norman Lumpkin?
Yes.
Norman, he got us in trouble. We went down to the Quincy's in the Southern Bypass after the 6 o'clock news one night.
Yeah.
This was in And Norman decided he was going to park by the door. I said, Norman, that's a handicap place. You can't park there. And this was brand new. But he said, what? No, we're going to park right here. And so being young and stupid, we said, well, I guess we have to be handicapped. So we all got out of the car acting as if we were handicapped. A lady in the restaurant saw it. She wrote a letter to the editor of the Montgomery Advertiser.
Oh.
And it said she was, and it went on about how horrible it was. And then at the end, it said she was shocked and disgusted when she saw those same 3 men on WSFA TV news that night. And everybody in town thought it was the weeknight guys, Phil Snow and Bob Howell and Dan Atkinson, but it was me and Norman and Matt Carmack.
It was appointment television. Channel 12 was, like you said, it was the station of record. And you wore a lot of hats back in the early days. I also did, I'm going to mention it. I did a show called Young World with Marge Payne.
Marge Payne, yes, yes.
And
wow.
I did PM Magazine. I did about 500 PM Magazine shows back when it was the #1 PM Magazine rated show in the country. And that was a Group W syndicated thing. But yeah, you wore a lot of hats back in those days. My Dairy Queen commercial ran in 12 markets, for years. Dairy Queen, you treat me right.
What was weird? People don't know this. The weather was not in the news department. It was under Carl Stevens in like production.
Exactly.
And so if you did weather, you did commercials. It was a different era back in those days. I never did any, but Matt Carmack, he did a bunch of them. Dan Atkinson, he did commercials, and boy, Dan was.
Glad you mentioned
wasn't Dan a great guy?
Dan took me under his wing. I was for a while he was the main guy, and I was weekends and noons, and Dan became my best friend. Tremendous loss. Of course, he went on to WSB in Atlanta, and he also did some stuff at the Weather Channel as well. But we stayed in touch all those years, and just hate that he's gone.
And he really took the time to spend with me. I was literally a kid, and he was an encourager, and he was one of the kindest men you will ever meet in your whole life. And he passed away, of course. I guess it's been probably 8 years or so. But goodness gracious, he was one of a kind, and I'll never forget his kindness and his encouraging words. And I hope that I can be that type of person. I'll never be as nice as Dan. Me and Rich, we have mean bones in our body. Dan had no mean bones, but he was a guy. We got to take a break here. So what's going to happen, Rich? We're going to take a break and hear from Tony Rice. We have a lunar eclipse this week, by the way, total lunar eclipse. So we'll get the details from Tony. We've got Jen and This Week in Tornado History. We're going to come back, and we are going to bring in Bruce Jones from Midland Radio, and we are going to do picks of the week. Okay. Why are you laughing, Rich? Why are you laughing?
Because he's got some stories that he's going to tell about me.
Good. All right. Good. So we will be right back as WeatherBrains rolls along.
Looking beyond the atmosphere, here's Tony Rice with your astronomy outlook. There's a total lunar eclipse coming up later this week, overnight Thursday into Friday morning. The entire eclipse will be visible across all of North and South America, including Alaska and Hawaii. Show begins just after 1 a.m. Friday morning here on the East Coast, midnight Central, 11 p.m. Mountain, and so on, as the moon slips into the Earth's shadow. Over the next 90 minutes, the moon will move deeper and deeper into that shadow until just before 2:30 a.m. Eastern, 1:30 Central, and so on. A total lunar eclipse begins. Now, unlike solar eclipses, where totality is measured in minutes, totality during a lunar eclipse lasts for over an hour. This is important because it is March and clear skies are pretty rare, but unless it's completely overcast where you are, you should be able to see some of that orangey red moon at some point. Now, you may have seen articles and/or social media posts about a blood red moon. It's more than just a name. While the moon could take on a deep red color, that's pretty rare. Generally, lunar eclipses are more towards an orange color. We really won't know what color it is until it happens, because that color is a function of the atmospheric conditions at the time. The moon turns that orange-red for the same reason that sunsets turn that color, and really for the same reason that the sky is blue. Rayleigh scattering. You see, water molecules in the atmosphere, they're about the same size as those shorter blue wavelengths of light. That leaves the longer, more orange and red ones to come on through. During a lunar eclipse, the atmosphere is filtering that light not once, but twice. First as it bends around the Earth on its way from the sun to the moon, and again as it's reflected back to our eyes. Observers from the mid-Atlantic to Texas and south could see a redder moon, as smoke particles from wildfires are also about the size of blue light. Wherever you are, the moon will be at its deepest, darkest color when it is deepest in the Earth's shadow, around 3 a.m. Eastern, and the show is over by about 4:47 a.m. as the partial eclipse ends. My two favorite points to see the eclipse, other than that maximum point, are those halfway through the partial eclipse, which will happen around 1:45 a.m. and 4 a.m. Eastern. This is when you really get a sense of what's happening. Look for the curvature in that line between the light and dark parts of the moon. That curvature is coming from the Earth curvature, literally projected onto the curved lunar surface. This is the first lunar eclipse since September, which favored the East Coast, while the West Coast joined the show halfway through at moonrise. The next lunar eclipse will be in March of 2026. when it's the West Coast turn to see the entire eclipse, while the moon will set halfway through totality in the east. It's your astronomy outlook. Follow me at RTP Hokie for more spacey stuff like this.
This week in tornado history, an isolated supercell developed just northwest of Atlanta, Georgia during the evening of March 14th, 2008. As the storm moved into the city, it produced a tornado that caused damage on a 6.25-mile path from west of the World Congress Center in Fulton County to the south of I-20 in DeKalb County. Maximum winds were estimated at 130 miles per hour. The tornado developed near the intersection of Simpson and Burbank Streets in the Vine City neighborhood, just west of downtown Atlanta. It moved over the middle of the Georgia World Congress Center and about 100 yards north of the Georgia Dome. The tornado struck during an NCAA basketball game between the University of Alabama and Mississippi State University. The storm hit at 9:38 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and the game was in overtime. Had it ended after regulation, thousands of people would have been in the streets heading home. The tornado left the Georgia Dome and moved across the CNN Omni Hotel complex and Phillips Arena, where an NBA game was ongoing. It moved over Equitable Bank Tower, across the Interstate 75-85 downtown connector and the Edgewood exit, and then into the Cotton Mill lofts across Oakland Cemetery. The tornado weakened and then lifted in western DeKalb County. Approximately 50 homes were damaged. Several multi-story towers and commercial buildings near and east of Centennial Olympic Park also sustained damage. Windows were blown out of several of these buildings. There was one fatality. It occurred in a parking lot across Decatur Street near the Martin Luther King Jr. MARTA station. A brick and stucco wall collapsed the victim. Some of the most significant damage was at the Cotton Mill lofts. The roof was blown off and exterior walls on the top or fourth floors were blown inward. Two sections of the fourth floor collapsed all the way into the basement of the building, trapping several people. Read our summary of this event and hundreds more on our website, tornadotalk.com.
Hey, we just might have some email to read this week.
We do, and they're both from Steve Holmes. So I'm going to go with the first one here that he sent a couple of days ago, entitled Chuck Doswell. I only knew Chuck Doswell from some email correspondence and his articles, website, and podcast, but I noticed a different side of him than what gets publicly expressed. Number one, on your show a couple of times, he talked about chasing's benefits beyond learning what was in the sky. Paraphrasing here, I fell in love with the Great Plains through storm chasing. I enjoy mingling with the people of the plains, eating at local restaurants, and visiting the local tourist traps. I love getting into the culture, the Omaha Warehouse District, Bricktown in Oklahoma City, eating food, visiting with people. This is from Steve. It's tough to imagine another chaser talking about something other than getting the shot. Number two, he listed 74 pet peeves on his website. Many were meteorological terms like pop-up thunderstorms, clashing air masses, that storm is trying to produce a tornado. But he also took on cliches and lazy writing. 2 a.m. in the morning, lack of commas, and nouns becoming verbs. The list should be required reading for any writer. Number three, for a guy known for being cranky, he had deep empathy for the survivors and victims of storms. Writing of a survey of the May 3rd, 1999 damage, he said, "The stuff in the rubble piles looks like the stuff in my house. This makes these people's experience more real to me." He defended sightseers as just wanting to understand. Quote, "How can we appreciate your situation if we don't see it for ourselves?" For a man who did not consider himself empathetic, he had not suffered from storms the way survivors had. He wrote one of the most poignant, empathetic messages to survivors I've ever read. And so this is the quote here. "If any survivor reads this, I want to make a promise. This storm will come to represent one of our best ever opportunities to learn about such storms and how they affect humans. There is reason to believe that many good things eventually will grow out of the tragedies on May 3rd, 1999. New programs, new cooperation among federal, state, and private agencies that will lead to improved planning for such events, perhaps better warnings, and improved mechanisms for dealing with them after the fact. Your loss is not without meaning. Even if the beneficiaries of the future don't know your name and can't ever grasp the impact of this event on you and those you love, I believe that you can take some comfort that today's losses eventually will mean fewer losses from such events in the future. It may not seem like much consolation, but the future will be in your debt, whether anyone knows it or not. Some of us won't forget that progress was made at great cost, your cost." And then Steve said, "My condolences to you all." So I just had to read it in its full. I thought it was a very thank you, Steve, for taking the time to write that for us and helping us to remember Chuck a little bit more. And the second email, go ahead, Bill.
His legacy will live on forever, Jim.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me pull up my other email here that also came from Steve, and this came in today, and it's titled, "With all due respect, Troy. Congress is not the source of our spending problems. We the people. We want an end to big government, but heaven help Congress if it touches the spending that benefits us. We reward the politician who brings the most tax money back to the district. The candidate who calls for sacrifice for the greater good. Remember Jimmy Carter's answer to the energy crisis? Turn the thermostat down. Look where it got him. Pogo said it best. We have met the enemy, and he is us." So, Troy, I wanted you to respond to that.
And I agree. I agree with Steve. I respect what Steve says. I still don't ever let an opportunity pass to blame the senators and the people up in Washington, because I don't think they're doing their job. But I certainly understand what Steve says, and he's not completely wrong. So, nice email. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. And we appreciate all the emails that have come in, whether, wishing us the best on the 1000th show or, giving us your show suggestions. We appreciate it so much. We love our listeners. Email at weatherbrains.com is how you can get a hold of us. And I'm going to toss it now to Bill Murray.
Thank you, Jen. Everyone is outside looking for the International Space Station as it passes over. Thanks to Tony Rice's fabulous email that he sends us every week with the satellite passes on it. And tonight was an exceptional pass of the ISS over us. So that was a lot of fun. But our next guest, it never does get old. You're exactly right. Our next guest, though, is someone who's been a tireless advocate for weather safety and the life-saving power of NOAA Weather Radio. Bruce Jones, meteorologist, the national spokesperson for Midland Radio, a company at the forefront of emergency weather alerting technology. And our friend Bruce has decades of experience in broadcast meteorology, public safety communication, dedicated his career to educating people about the importance of having a weather radio, especially when cell towers fail and power's out. And tonight, as we always do, we're going to talk about why weather radio is a gold standard for severe weather warnings and how Midland's working to make these radios even more accessible and why every home and business should have one. Bruce, welcome back to the show. We try to identify where you are by what the curtains in your hotel room every week. So I don't know, Kim.
This is not
Kim, what's your guess? Do you think we'll guess it? I'm saying a Comfort Inn. What do you think, Kim?
I mean, that's kind of a
little more upscale than that. The molding, give it away.
Yeah.
What's the air conditioner look like, Bruce? Let's look at the air conditioner.
Let's look at the air conditioner.
The air conditioner is always a tell.
Can you see it back there?
I don't know. It's kind of giving me the
yeah, this is looking kind of comforty here.
You know what it is? It's the Oneida Indian Casino in Green Bay.
You sure are spending a lot of time in casinos.
I was getting ready to say that. He's casino in it again.
You bet you win.
Okay. What do they say at the end of these commercials down here? They say, gambling problem, Bruce? Is this something we can talk about?
Hey, I'll tell you something interesting, though. Last week, I was at the Choctaw Casino in Durant, Oklahoma, which is the 6th largest in the world. So in the morning, I would go for a walk, and rather than walk outdoors, I would walk in the casino. One round around the casino is 0.75 miles.
And 4 cigarettes, too. It's the equivalent of 4 cigarettes.
Yeah. So 4 times around was my 3-mile walk in the morning. Can you imagine a casino that big? It's mind-boggling.
It stopped being secondhand smoke at that point, Bruce.
Yeah,
it's just like
it's third, fourth.
Hey, Bruce, I've got a question for you. I understand you have some Rich Thomas stories. We're all
that's what they're here for. I forgot to invite you.
Oh, Rich.
Bruce has more stories. You want a lot of Midland Bruces.
When Rich and I talk, we talk about the old days of radio back when if you were a hot station, you were a radio and records reporter.
Yeah, he went into all this. We had no idea. He was influencing the Billboard Top 40.
Yeah, right, Rich? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We were a key indicator station. We could make or break hits that was a fun part of the job.
Yeah.
What was one song you sent to the top, Rich, that we never saw coming? Like "Afternoon Delight" by the Starland Vocal Band. What was it?
That wasn't mine. No, there was actually there's a bunch of gold records on the wall back here, but there was this stupid little song called "Music Box Dancer." that
Music
was on
Box Dancer.
Music Box Dancer.
You're responsible for that.
Wow.
That would not have been a hit
horrible
anywhere
song
in the world if we hadn't pulled it out of the
James,
pile. I said,
James
Larry,
Spann would not play that song if it was the last song on earth.
I said to Larry,
man, we're playing Leonard Skinner and Led Zeppelin. We're not going to play that one at TBC.
No, I hear you. I hear you. It's a nerdy song, but I said, Larry, this is a you song, and he says, yes, it is, and we'll add it. So we would have that.
It was funny today. My lunch partner said, we were talking about weather, and I said, I would, I wanted to hear. I found my radio stations based on, whether they had a weather wire or not.
Right.
And I would say, Leonard Skinner and Led Zeppelin. I said exactly what Spann said. But at 6 o'clock, I was tuned to Dixie Gospel Caravan on WDJC because Wayne Wallace in Birmingham would read those warnings verbatim. And boy, I became a big fan of the Imperials and some other Dixie Gospel groups.
Rich, you were not responsible for Seasons in the Sun, were you?
Oh,
wow. Yeah. Terry Jacks. That's got Rich written all over it.
Worst song of the decade.
You listen to me. I was right across the lake from 50,000 watt CKLW, the Big 8, and that's what I grew up on during the height of the Motown years. And they were such a tight radio station. I wanted to be a disc jockey. I wanted to be so bad on the radio because CKLW was the gold standard.
Yep.
That's so funny. Well, we totally hijacked your section here, Bruce. So.
No, I love this stuff. I loved radio talk. Yeah, it was fun job back then.
So Bruce, we're getting into the height of severe weather season. We've got a big event potentially coming up Friday and Saturday across the Arkansas, Texas, Mississippi Valley, potentially into the Southeast. So, talk about, why weather radio is an important means of communication in these severe weather events still.
Well, as meteorologists, we remind everybody to have multiple redundant ways to get these messages. And if you're a fan of WeatherBrains, this is the most important message that you can share with your friends and your family when people talk to you about, being a severe weather enthusiast or being a storm chaser or whatever your interest is. Make sure that you talk to people about the importance of having multiple ways to get these warnings. And we all love our cell phones. I'm talking on my cell phone right now, but anything can fail. And if a cell phone tower nearest to your location were to go down, you might not receive any warnings at all on your cell phone. So it's really important to have a backup and a backup for a backup. When you're outdoors, you can listen to an outdoor tornado siren if you're out at the ballpark. But wherever you go, indoors, outdoors, traveling, RV, camping, you can take a NOAA weather radio. This is an official radio broadcast that comes direct from your local National Weather Service office. And the idea behind a weather radio is to give you an indoor tornado siren. A tornado siren you can carry with you and have at all times, and it's going to alert you via radio. So when cell phone towers go down, when the electricity goes out at your house and you can no longer watch your TV set, you need to have that NOAA weather radio. And this is especially important for young people nowadays who might spend the afternoon after school watching Hulu, watching Disney Plus, watching a DVD, playing an online video game. None of those will be interrupted by a tornado warning, but having a NOAA weather radio in your home will make sure that your children, your neighbors, your friends get these alerts. If you go to midlandusa.com, there's a special offer for you. It's a 25% offer using this promo code. So midlandusa.com is the website, and the promo code is SPAN25. That's SPANN25. When you use the promo code SPAN25 at midlandusa.com, you get 25% off a weather radio. We are getting into tornado season now. For much of the Dixie Alley, for much of Tornado Alley, it's really beginning to kick off, and it may do so in grand style this Friday and Saturday. So please take advantage of this opportunity to get weather radios for you, your family, your friends. But most importantly, please spread this message. Everyone in America needs multiple ways to get warnings, and every home, school, and business in America should make NOAA Weather Radio an important part of their weather plan.
Hey, Bruce.
And before you turn it over to Span here, I wanted to say something, Bruce, because you mentioned something there. You said young people. And we have a young general manager in Ardmore, Oklahoma, who called me last week and said, Mr. Murray, I got this weather radio and I know we're supposed to have it, but, tell me about it. He didn't even know about it. He was new, and he knew he was supposed to, have this thing and have it, refreshed and ready to go. And I told him all that. He couldn't believe it. He was like, this is cool technology. And I'm like, this is 60, 70-year-old technology that still works. Yeah. And, it's going to alert you when you're not paying attention, it's going to let you know.
It's like a smoke alarm.
He's already a believer in, technology. It was something he'd never heard of.
Hey, Bruce, we started our promotion with Midland Weather Radio on an incredible week. It was actually the week of the Enterprise tornado. It just happened to be when we launched our campaign. And I remember we broke a record of selling how many units at public stores? I don't know.
Hundreds and hundreds.
You got me to Washington. Thank you to your brother, Bruce.
Yeah. For the Mark Trail Award.
Yeah, it's right there. The Mark Trail Award.
Mark Trail Award. Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but what an incredible week to launch weather, because we knew that Enterprise was going to be a huge event, and it sold weather radios, a lot of them.
Yeah, and people buy weather radios after they've seen an event, because then it becomes very clear to them that people weren't kidding around about this stuff. My prayer for all Americans is that they'll get this device before the severe weather hits. Absolutely. Before, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Now's the time to get it. But Bruce, thank you. So do we have any volunteers that want to update us on the Weather Service layoffs? I hear so many things, I don't know what to believe anymore. Troy, Kim, somebody give us an update here.
Well, in talking, and again, I spent part of the afternoon talking with NBC5 here in Dallas-Fort Worth today. Scott Friedman, who is their investigative reporter. Scott and I go way back, and we talked for a while today. One thing that was interesting is, like James said, about a week ago, I heard that one of the offices that was most decimated by the probationary status people being dropped and people leaving was the Midland office out in West Texas. Well, it ends up, James, that the office didn't lose anybody. So we were hearing a bunch of stuff that doesn't work out. I've heard some rumors that SPC has lost a number of people. I do know that the offices in Boulder and Cheyenne and some of the offices, especially in the central region, have seen some pretty large hits. But we also know that on Saturday morning, everyone see that apparently some of the probationary people who had earlier been let go 2 or 3 days prior were brought back in. They were told it was done by error. So, but I don't think that was everyone that was let go. It continues to be more of a chainsaw type of operation rather than surgical, it would appear to me.
No, that's right. It's both. On one hand, it's so frustrating because there are difficult things that are happening. We have had people leave, both with the fork in the road early retirement offer or just buyout offer, and the probationary losses. But at the same time, the 1340s, that's the federal meteorology series, that was supposed to be exempted. So that we're getting back some of those 1340s. Okay. But all of the tech support folks and all of the comms folks and all of the other administrative functions that are so essential to making everything work, those folks, I think we just sort of permanently lost in the probationary cut. So it's been really interesting on the inside, like just sort of watching to see what comes in. Nobody seems to have really good information, and a lot of what is coming up, even at the headquarters level, is trickling up from the field. We're sort of learning, okay, who's back, by who comes back. It's not that anybody is told ahead of time, and nobody was told ahead of time in management before the cuts were made. So that was just a surprise to different leadership across the Weather Service.
Did I hear that some of the upper air observations at some places are going to be cut back?
Great.
Already happening.
Yep.
Oh my God. Oh my God. No.
Right? That's when you know things are really getting real. We're losing our very essential observations because those rely on staffing.
Yeah. I got a question for y'all real quick, though. Is anyone here, just off the top of my head, anyone here heard anything about the NOAA confirmation of Neil? Because I understand that's kind of critical at this point. I'm wondering if anyone has heard anything about the progress of that. Of course, Neil can't tell us much, but at the same time, just wonder.
I don't know.
Crickets.
Yeah, it's been crickets.
He can't talk to us.
Yeah.
And we're just having to sit back and wait. I don't know. I would assume it's sooner than later, but we just don't know.
I'm scheduled to go to the National Tropical Weather Conference in a few days, but I understand that there's a NOAA travel ban. Is that right? And all of those people that were supposed to be there and present, and that's most of Alex's 4 people, are not going to be there now.
Yeah.
It happened so many times to the NWA.
Yeah.
It happened in 2012. It happened in 2013. It happened in 2014. They moved the entire conference because of it, because it was becoming a yearly thing. And so it's just.
I just got a text message, and I'm not going to say who sent it. It's a friend of the show, but and I think Kim alluded to this, but my Lord, the ET people, the electronic techs, these people, men and women, keep the ASOSs going. They keep the radars going. They keep the upper air functioning. That to me makes no damn sense.
It's the bottom of the sense ladder, and there we go.
And the other problem is the uncertainty. The uncertainty is just horrible in any organization. It does. Uncertainty. It's horrible for morale. It's horrible for productivity. Everything else, and there just needs to be some kind of communication. At least tell us what's going to happen here. Instead of just hearing these rumors and, well, I heard some guy on the tweeter say this and some guy over here say that. Nobody really knows much right now. So hopefully we'll get working.
Hey, James,
the tweeter went down today.
James, also real quick, did you hear something about Commerce or someone getting confirmed, or is that another topic?
Secretary of Commerce was confirmed beginning of last week. So I presume this.
Okay.
It filters down to the umbrella agencies.
Okay.
And of course, during the confirmation hearings, Neil has promised to wear a WeatherBrains sweatshirt. So if you see a guy in a WeatherBrains sweatshirt, that's Dr. Neil Jacobs, the new administrator of NOAA.
Right away.
So we got to roll into picks of the week here. Rich, we're going to stall and let you go at the end here, but this is where everybody shares something that is cool, weather related. This can be a website, data source, hardware, software, anything remotely related to weather. So, Troy, let's just start with you. I mean, you're out there in Addison by the Addison Airport.
Yeah.
Things happen. What you got for us?
Well, and I'm afraid I'm taking someone else's because I'm kind of pulling this out from our discussion that we've had, the chat on the side of the room. But we've discussed it previously, but Corey's website, not website, but his app, his weather app, we've kind of talked about that. Corey Modis, who happens to be down at Corpus Christi, Texas, at the WFO there, has really done an amazing job. I'm a beta tester for that app. It's really going to be really a pretty amazing what he has done with that. I don't know if it's public yet. I think it's still in beta test, but this is really a sharp app. And
it is out in the App Store, and he hopes Android App Store soon. It's in final testing there.
And I'm telling you, I think someone said here in the chat, this is the app the Weather Service should have, and Corey's developed this thing of his own, and it really is amazing. So just kind
What's
of
the name of it?
By the way, I've invited him. Bill,
Everything Weather.
Yeah, everything weather, and I will tell you, Bill, I've invited him to join us one Monday night. So
that's wonderful.
Okay.
That's outstanding. All right. And again, all the links will be up on the website, weatherbrains.com. Jen, what do you have for us before you head to Alabama?
Well, I got a text this morning from a friend in Ocala who's like, station got hit. And so it was really interesting to see Brooks on tonight. I was so glad that he came on to talk about what happened. But yeah, I got that text and I immediately got on Twitter and I couldn't get on there. And then I kept pushing refresh and I finally got a first tweet. And this came from Braxton Banks out of Tulsa, but he posted the video from what happened and then the radar right beside it. So that is my pick of the week. It was just crazy. They had, debris coming off the roof and what have you. So I was really grateful. Thanks, Brooks, for being on tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was great to have him on the show.
Thanks to Rich for making it happen. Rich, man.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thanks, Rich.
He's a good friend of mine, and we've been texting all day long. So,
all right, Kim, give us a good pick of the week. What you got?
I wish that I could give you a pick of the week on how to sift through the rumor mill craziness. I will reiterate my advice from previous weeks. Anything that is proposed is out there. Give it a week before you really, really worry about it. This goes for most everything. Within a week, usually things have changed. It's all moving so quickly that and there's nothing you can reasonably do in the interim. So just deep breaths, everybody. Especially this week. There's something every week. But be that as it may, based on the conversation we just had, Jen, you highlighted the Atlanta tornado in 2008. And we talked a little bit about the inclusion of social science in our field, inspired me to pick the first service assessment the Weather Service did that had a social science element to it. It was actually the Super Tuesday outbreak of 2008, just shortly before the tornado that had hit Atlanta. That was quite a year, and I thought a really well done report.
Yeah,
excellent. And they'll be up on the website, weatherbrains.com. Bruce, give us a good pick of the week. I know you got something good for us.
Yeah. Wisconsin's I'm at Wisconsin Emergency Management this week. Wisconsin's tornado season is more June, July, August. And they've had 3 EF5s up here. Barneveld, Wisconsin, June 8th of 84, F5. Oakfield, Wisconsin, July of 1996, F5. Their biggest one ever was in 1899. It was the New Richmond tornado, killed 117. And that's a EF5 ranking based on the way the damage was described. Well, there was a book written about that tornado called A Modern Herculaneum, and that book's available to read for free on the Internet Archive. And it has a lot of pictures of the damage. These tornadoes of the 1800s, they'd kind of run out there and photograph things. And it's interesting to read people try to put together any sense to be made from these storms and how they describe the damage and the impact on families and farms. So the book is called A Modern Herculaneum. You can buy used copies of it on the internet, but the Internet Archive has one for free, and I'll send you the link to it.
Absolutely. Great. Thanks so much, Bruce. James Adelot, what's your pick of the week?
My pick of the week is a paper by Tony Liza, Harold Brooks, and Kinsey Kochak, and it is Where Have All the EF5s Gone? Since the last EF5 tornado was more, and that is the longest EF5 drought since 1950.
Yeah.
And they take a very interesting look, both by scaling up the previous tornado wind speeds and scaling down the threshold for EF5 of the modern thing. And it's just, their conclusion is a much more meticulous application of the EF scale, the way it should have probably been done all along. But it's a very interesting paper.
We do believe this is a duplicate pick, but that's okay. Kim, didn't you pick this one?
Oh, I'm just
recently?
giving him some crap. Yeah, I put in the chat, hey man, that was my pick. But
I can't remember that
it's been a
far back.
while, and people have slept since then. We've had like 3 national, catastrophes since then. So let's all come back to tornadoes.
All right, there you go. The EF5 tornado drought paper. Apparently, we all have to read that. Okay, Rich Thomas, we've stalled long enough. Give us a good pick.
I wish I'm a little brain dead right now after being up since 2 a.m. and another alarm staring me at 2 o'clock. So I really don't have anything good except I've enjoyed every moment of this. I'm not looking forward to Saturday night at all. Although, last week we were fearful of that event, and that one unfolded in a very different way. So, and when I was younger, I used to love these. Well, not love these severe weather events. We're very excited about these severe weather events. Now, these days, give me partly cloudy.
Yeah, and it's funny. It's so much has changed, but now so much of what we do, it's putting down some of the nonsense that people are seeing on social media. And what people don't understand, there's a large number of people that have weather anxiety. This is clinical. This is real. It's not in their mind, where they're scared to death of storms and tornadoes. And there's so much of this screaming hyperbole on the social channels. And again, people are making piles of money on this, and I'm all for making money, but making money by scaring people is just not cool. This will be worse than anything you've ever seen. Worse than 2011. Worse than 1974. Unheard of. Dig a hole now. Stick your head between your legs. And people believe this. And we've got to have some sanity in the communication process leading up to even a big day. And there's a fine line between scaring people and informing people. And we just have to be better at that, including me, people like me. But it just seems like so much of what we do now, it's putting down a lot of this hyperbole that's across the socials. But Rich, thanks for your level-headed approach. All right, Bill Murray, it's your turn. Take the floor. Go.
Yeah, James, I'm going to take the foghorn before I get into all of the information I want to communicate here.
I love that noise.
Yeah, I love it too. So anyway, next week we've got a historic broadcast live from Barron Services in Huntsville, Alabama. We're taking the show on the road for this milestone episode. Barron, one of our longtime partners in meteorology, is hosting the show, and they have been so sweet to get all the panelists there. I hope everyone's made their travel arrangements. Looking at you, Kim Clicker McLean. You got all your arrangements made. I know Troy has. We're going to miss James A. so much. Wish he could be there, but it's his spring break. Jen, of course, is driving down with her aunt. That's gonna be fun. And we're going to get James all the way from the Alabama Gulf Coast that morning. We're going to get him all the way to Huntsville that night. But I have even bigger news. Our old friend Ben Luna at Tennessee Valley Weather Network is going to produce the show. So James Spann will not have to be driving the show, and we won't have to do it with spit and bubble gum. We're actually going to do it with a professional setup. Ben is such a super fellow, and he is so excited. He's already moved into the office down there. He's got like a sleeping bag on the operations floor, and they have to move him out of the way, And James, they said there's only one trade-off. You have to take support calls for like 15 minutes after the show while they put everything back together. So I told them that was fine. You didn't mind doing it, but you knew the Barron system better than anybody. But some of the biggest names in meteorology have reached out. We've been so gratified. Jen has done such an incredible job putting the show rundown together. We've got a lot of great surprises, some incredible dancing with the stats. I know that's James's favorite TV program to interrupt with a tornado warning back in the day. And so we've got some incredible dancing with the stats, some incredible listener favorite moments, some legendary clips. We'll talk about how shows evolve, how its future is going to evolve. And we even have one really super big surprise. We're going to remember our longtime mentor, J.B. Elliott. And, we're all going to talk about some of our most memorable WeatherBrains episodes in a panel type environment. So
who was
we're
on
going to
show
close
one?
it out. Say what? What, Rich?
Who was on show one?
There wasn't show one was just this slickly produced thing when, it actually was a show. Now it's just a big hour, 2 hour,
Mess.
torrent of information. Back then it was slickly produced. So we'll actually have some clips from show number one, and we'll have a toast to show number 2000, which is going to be in like 2044, James. We'll be around for that one.
Yeah, no problem. I'm all in. And and again, real quick, I forgot my pick. The Hurricane Center every year they publish a paper on the changes to their products that they'll be issuing during the hurricane season. That was my pick of the week, and that'll be up on WeatherBrains.com. But Rich, plug away. Let's plug your social media accounts. Go.
Okay. The website is richthomasweathernetwork.com. Facebook, Rich Thomas Weather. I'm on X, Rich Thomas WX. The weather app is very successful. And I'm just a few hours away from getting up and starting and over and do it again. This has been a really incredible event for me, and I feel like I've made it now in this business. After being
We're so sorry, Rich.
WeatherBrains show number 999. So thank you. I love all of you, and respect the hell of this podcast or whatever we're calling it. I really do. And by the way, I watched a really good one the other day, 665 with After Michael. Oh my God, the cast of characters you had on that show.
Incredible show.
It was absolutely incredible. So thank you for doing this, and thank you for having me.
I don't remember who was on show 666. Who was on show 666?
Oh, that Bastardi.
Bastardi.
Wow. So, but again, let's thank Barron. And by the way, we have to be sure we get it right. For years and years, it was Barron Services. They changed their name to Barron Weather. So Barron Weather.
Better get it right. Murray.
Yeah, we want to thank them. Bob Barron. Rich Bob Barron goes back to radio at WHHY.
WHHY. You are right.
It's
me and him used to hang out at radio and record conferences, waiting for someone to take us to dinner. Me and Bob would hang out in the lobby. Waiting for a record company.
Wow.
You were right. It was Bastardi on 666. Rich.
Yes, sir.
All right. We got to go. If you're new here, WeatherBrains is typically produced every Monday night at 8 o'clock Central. I'm sorry, 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. The website is weatherbrains.com. Our YouTube channel, youtube.com/weatherbrains, is how you can watch it live. But we know that most of you listen, and however you listen or watch, we thank you. If you want to get in touch with us, the email address, it is email@weatherbrains.com. And again, let's all look forward to show 1000 next week live from Huntsville, Alabama, and Barron Weather. So on behalf of the entire WeatherBrains crew, I'm James Spann. Thanks for listening. Have a great week, and God bless. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Rich.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you, Rich.